Two America's Cup syndicates have been granted special exemptions to get through our closed borders. But international spectators might be watching from their couches rather than New Zealand waters because of COVID-19. American Magic will bring about 206 workers and family members with it, while INEOS Team UK is bringing 87 workers, including a nanny, and 128 family members. They're expected to stay on for 9 months, with the final match for the America's Cup due to be held in March next year. Now, the government says the syndicates alone will pump $100 million into the economy, but any thoughts of equalling past gains would be heroic. And super yachts bringing spectators and other overseas visitors might still be locked out due to our strict coronavirus border controls, which basically mean only New Zealand citizens or permanent residents are allowed into the country without exemptions. Economic Development Minister Phil Twyford says the Cup syndicates had to meet a tough set of conditions.
In this case, the America's Cup event could not take place unless these challenger teams came in by about now. These teams together are expected to spend more than $100 million. That's in direct local spending. The event itself will have very significant additional economic benefits for the country. And the government alone has invested $136 million in the America's Cup. So there is a lot at stake here economically.
Exactly, but are we sure we're going to get these economic benefits? Because where are the spectators going to be coming from? Normally we have tons of overseas people coming, super yachts. Let's start with the super yachts. Are you going to let them in?
Well, today we announced, as part of this package of changes for dealing with the exemptions to the border closures, we also announced an additional category for these border exemptions that will allow boats and ships who have a compelling need to visit New Zealand. It might be a fisheries vessel, for example, to discharge their catch. It could be a cargo ship that needs to replace its crew.
Yes, but is that compelling maritime category? Is the compelling maritime category, is it fit for purpose for spectators for the America's Cup?
Well, if people need to come here to refit and refurbish yachts, for example, then my expectation is that will be covered by this category. But these border exemptions are
not just to watch, Minister, not just to watch. They would have to be getting work done on their boat as well as watching the Cup in order to fit the criteria.
Yeah, they would only be considered under this category if they were coming here to have work done on the boat. So this exemption category is not intended as a kind of catch-all for instance, visitors to the country or tourists or spectators for the America's Cup. But look, we're 6 months away or more from the event taking place. Things are moving quite fast. It's our government's hope that if we can keep Kiwis safe and not lose the hard-won gains, then we will be able to incrementally open up the border. There's a lot of work going on around the Trans-Tasman bubble. That's the first step. So who knows where we'll be in 6 months' time on this issue.
Again, and that's the point, isn't it? It's very uncertain. So the Prime Minister has all but indicated fully open borders are probably not going to happen until we get a vaccine. The final race in the America's Cup Challenge is in March of next year. Are you gambling on the fact that you think crowds are going to be allowed in over the border?
No, look, I would say, Lisa, we're while we are extremely motivated to see the America's Cup go ahead, at this stage I don't think anyone can make the assumption that spectators and visitors from overseas will be able to come and attend the event. I would hope that would happen. It would be, in many ways, it would be a real shame if we couldn't welcome the international community of people who follow the America's Cup to come here and enjoy the event. But I don't think we can assume it at this stage.
So it's potentially going to be a TV event. So are you going to get the economic gains that you are basing these entry visas on?
Well, I think you'd have to say that if we can't welcome international visitors to come and be spectators and enjoy the event, then the economic gains would certainly be less than the original projections, which were, around $1 billion. I think that would be a pretty heroic assumption at this point in time. But look, the America's Cup is is hugely important for Kiwis. It would be hosting the event. Whether or not we can bring in visitors and tourists to enjoy it here will still be a spectacular undertaking. And I know that, so many people want to see the event proceed, and I think we're on track to see that happen.
So these people have to go into quarantine still, even though they have an exemption. There are a limited number of spots. They have to pay for themselves. Will they be put into a government-managed hotel, or are you allowing them to quarantine somewhere else?
No, at this stage, everyone who's coming in will have to go through one of the hotels that are part of the government-run quarantine system. And this is one of the constraints at the moment on bringing the number of people in through these border exemptions. We have about 3,200 places currently, the ability for, say, 250 to 300 people a day to come in. Now, we want to expand that because actually not so much for these economic exemptions, but we're really keen to get the Kiwis and their dependents, spouses and kids who have been stranded overseas, people who are on temporary work visas and their families. Often they've got homes, jobs, kids in school here, but they were stranded overseas when the lockdown came in. And 90% of the people so far who have come in under these exemptions haven't been the economically essential ones. They've been humanitarian and family cases, and we want to help those people get back in the country. And so we're looking at how we can expand the quarantine capacity, and we'll have more to say on that in the coming days. It won't be me, but one of my colleagues. But that is one of the constraints that we face right now.
And that was Economic Development Minister Phil Twyford. Apologies for the slightly patchy cell phone line.